Hello fellow travelers, and welcome to another episode of In-Depth Boss Guide series, where we take a closer look at Teyvat's major threats. I'm too lazy to be awesome, and this time I'll tell you all you have to know about Jadeplume Terrorshroom. First thing you can notice when you enter the fight is that boss has a fury meter. Being a shroom-like creature, it reacts with pyro and electro. Electro attacks slowly fill the fury bar, but triggering any part of newly added catalyst reaction charges it even faster. If fury reaches its maximum, boss enters its activated state and unleashes a powerful attack, then becomes paralyzed for about 15 seconds. Pyro attacks, on the other hand, deplete Terrorshroom's fury meter by significant amount, and if you happen to trigger burning, boss briefly enters scorched state and summons 3 spore sacs that explode and produce floating dendro fungi after 3 seconds. These fungi will periodically launch homing projectiles at you, making fight quite chaotic, but you can destroy spore sacs with pyro, hydro or electro to prevent them from hatching. Terrorshroom has increased resistance to dendro and also briefly imbues itself with dendro when it attacks or taunts you, so technically you don't have to bring dendro characters to trigger aforementioned reactions. But keep in mind, when boss is the one who actually triggers reaction, it will be much weaker. Boss also has slightly increased resistances in its normal state. This bonus is lost while it's paralyzed after performing an enrage attack. And lastly, Terrorshroom's head is its weak spot, so your aimed attacks will always crit when you hit it. During the fight, Terrorshroom will most of the time try to attack you with its melee combo, which consists of 3 attacks: Quick Sweep, Head Slam and Jumping Slam, but boss won't necessarily do all 3 of them every time. The best way to avoid those is dashing iframes. Just remember to always expect the full combo and delay your dashes. Alternatively, you can dash away and keep your distance until you become certain that boss has stopped. It's a bit safer option, but also a potential damage loss. Terrorshroom also has ranged combo that works just as melee one. It's a 3-part combo and boss can cut it at any point. The best way to deal with it is to come in melee range. Boss won't be able to hit you there with any of these attacks. If you prefer to stay away, just don't panic and use a single dash for each part. If you use 2 in a row, you might not be able to dash away from the next hit in time. Last possible attack in normal form is Spore Bomb. Boss creates a spore cloud around which doesn't deal damage on its own, but it then explodes, dealing damage in a large area. Cloud explodes after the 3rd peck, bite, speed, whatever the boss is doing. So you can avoid it with a well-timed dash, but you also have plenty of time to just run away from it and wait for explosion in safety. As I mentioned before, when you feel boss rage meter, it will perform one of its enrage attacks. It's better to run away before you see which one it will be. If it's rapid packs, just keep your distance and let Terrorshroom to have fun until it collapses. If you see Furious Charge, dash away from its path. Boss will charge at you twice before collapsing, and each time it will simply move in a straight line. Just keep your distance to have more time to react and get away. And the last possible attack is Spore Rain. This is a ranged attack and it's the only one where you want to come closer instead. Luckily, it has pretty long charging animation, so you will be able to react in time. If you stay close, boss won't be able to hit you. To summarize, the best way to avoid melee attacks is to rely on dashing iframes. During ranged attacks, just stay close to completely ignore them. And when you expect an enrage attack, keep your distance until you recognize which one it is. Now when you know how to stay safe, let's see what should be the best way to deal damage. The most effective strategy to fight the boss is to constantly trigger enrage attacks. They are easy to avoid, and after them boss will be stunned and will lose resistance bonuses, so it's your best chance to deal damage to it with pretty much anything you prefer. In order to do so, you need to bring Dendro and Electro characters that can quickly hit the boss several times. Here are some options for you. With some combination of those, you will fill the entire rage meter in just a few seconds. You don't even need these characters to be good, since your damage doesn't affect rage generation and you have the rest of your team to deal damage. And keep in mind that boss has increased Dendro resistance, so making it your main source of damage is not the best idea. If you don't want to rely on these characters and stun the boss, your best shot is to stay in melee range and simply avoid all of the attacks like we've learned earlier. But if you rely on pyro characters, make sure that you have some form of pyro, hydro or electro AoE to quickly destroy spore sacs to prevent adds from spawning. They are very annoying, but with enough AoE, this move simply turns into free damage window. And keep in mind that boss moves a lot, so keeping it inside pre-placed AoEs sometimes might be tricky. This way to fight is harder in my opinion, but as usual, feel free to pick whatever suits you. There is just one achievement related to Terrorshroom that you can earn. In order to get it, you have to see all 3 enrage attacks. There is no need to do this in a single fight, so the easiest way to get it is to start the fight, fill the rage meter using Dendro and Electro, wait for the attack to finish and TP away to reset the fight. Just repeat this until you get to see every attack. It shouldn't take too long. Anyway, that's all for now, fellow travelers. Have a great rest of your day and I'll see you in the next one.